down. Looked like he ruined his gloves and goggles that he had just gotten.
Well, I want to give you an update. I just now realized this. Grant Baylor is up to 6th place overall. I did not realize that. And that's overall, so that puts him 5th place right now in the XC1 Pro class. And, I mean, we were looking at him like in 11th place there a couple laps.
Grant was another rider that looked really confident. He was riding the outside. Stu actually was riding very well and was coming up through the pack. I would have to imagine he's up into the top 10 overall now.
11th.
So there we go.
Yes,
he's in 10th place overall. So we talked about it earlier in the race. He was outside the top 20. At that point, it's full-blown salvage mode. You got to get points. You got to figure out where you can get any points at all. There we see Jonathan Johnson on screen, one of our XC2 Pro Lights riders. But Stu has managed to claw, bite, fight, grab, and dig his way back up into the top 10. Surely if he were to finish the day in 10th, he would not be happy with the result, but given where he was on lap 1, you would have to take some sense of gratification away from that. And again, we still have an hour and a half of racing left, so anything could happen. Heck, we could see him battling before Podium by the time this one's over.
Yeah, he's only 15 seconds behind Corey Buttrick on that one. Andrew DeLong, as you'd said, had gone down. I think there was another 12 seconds up to him. Josh Toth, another 16. Yeah, you know, the way Stu rides, especially in the latter part of the race, and if these guys slow down and Stu can still keep some momentum, you're right, he could start pushing up towards the top 5, maybe even a podium ride.
And I'll tell you what, also, in that, with Stu Baylor was hard on the throttle, right on his rear wheel was the number 10 Coastal Racing Husqvarna of Craig DeLong. So he is actually getting a tow right now. Now, granted, he's got a pretty healthy gap to make up to get up to the back of Ben Kelly. Earlier in the race, we saw him. He was kind of hanging right with him there, maybe 15 seconds back. Now I'd say it's probably up closer to a minute.
Well, I just want to pipe in here. I mean, everybody else from about 4th place back running 25-minute plus lap times up to 26 minutes, all the way down through the top 10. Stu Baylor turning a 25-11 in all that. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Sure. Again, we gotta. I'm in the same boat as you are. That's impressive. He should be happy with a top 10 ride, but we'll see where he can end this one. And if he keeps this momentum going up with 4 more laps to go, or 3.5 more laps to go, he can make up a lot of ground, like you say.
I think we'll see Stu up near the top 5, if not into the top 5. And I tell you what else that's going on out there that I noticed. There is an absolute throwdown in that FMF XC3 class right now.
Yes.
Jesse Ansley has given up a little bit of time that last lap, but Nick Davis and Cody Barnes were just absolutely wheel-to-wheel battling. Here we see on screen Thad Duvall leading the way. That is a lapped rider in between, Thad Duvall in second, Caleb Russell leading the way. That was a lapped rider between them. That rider you see out front there can barely distinguish the number 1 on his back. He's in the middle of your screen right now. That is Caleb Russell. Thad Duvall, and I got to tell you, these fields are slick. Oh, we got a little brown out there from our poncho on our cameraman.
He was trying to wipe the lens, I think.
Our cameraman needed to pull a tear off there.
We'll be seeing these guys here in just a few moments. This is VP Fuels Pro Row. Don't know if these guys will be coming in for a splash of gas, but you have to almost assume in these conditions, these guys are going to be stopping for goggles every lap and probably taking towels as often as they can out on the track to wipe their grips. Look at that. That is Ben Kelly, folks.
Whoa.
Is he physically third? No, Trevor Bollinger right there in front of him. He is on the rear wheel of Bollinger, and that clearly solidly puts him into the top 3 overall on correct time, but he cannot be too very far.
That's what I was getting ready to say. That right there, all of a sudden, we're getting into a position again where we may be seeing Ben Kelly on adjusted time, the overall leader once again. And there was only 13 seconds that separated that 1st to 3rd place position on time adjustment. So, I mean, in theory, yes, we're probably right there.
Here's one thing that Ben Kelly potentially has an advantage, and I don't know if you guys have talked about this yet, but Thad Duvall, Caleb Russell, very much in a championship hunt right now. This is a mud race. This is a survival race. Yes, they both want to win. Yes, they both need to win. Each one of them, Caleb wanting to desperately grab that momentum back that Thad was able to get by wrestling away the win at the last race. Thad desperately wanting to keep that momentum on the side as we see the 4th place XC1 rider, Ricky Russell, the 212 machine on that NFAB Am Pro Yamaha. He is still trucking out there, and you can see him taking a look over his shoulder. That's usually a sign of the conditions getting tough, and you're just trying to basically manage your gaps at that point. But back to managing gaps, Thad Duvall, Caleb Russell can see each other. Yes. They've got each other right where they want each other. Each of them thinks they have the plan to win the race. Neither one of them is trying to sprint away with the win here. That being said, when they're told that Ben Kelly is potentially taking away overall points from them, because again, I don't know if you've talked about this, but the overall championship
5
is
points.
decided by overall points.
Yeah.
So if Ben Kelly takes away this overall, that takes away overall points from Caleb Russell and Thad
And there
Duvall.
is a 5-point deficit between first and second place in
5-4.
GNCC overall points. So that's a big chunk of points to have taken away from him.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're in either one of Caleb or Thad's position, because Caleb's trying to stretch away, Thad's trying to make him up. So this right here would certainly make things not nearly as advantageous for either one of those guys. But again, podium position finishes, consistency is what's going to take for these guys.
Look at the determination from that rider right there. Stu Baylor is trying as best as he can to track down. In front of him is Andrew DeLong, and right in front of him, Ricky Russell. So Stu Baylor physically 6th now on the racetrack, 7th once you factor in Ben Kelly.
Yes.
So on corrected time, I think Andrew DeLong is going to be back ahead of him, which will put him 8th. But when we last saw, he was 10th. So it appears he may have made up 2 positions in the overall in just this lap alone.
So back to the points, what we were saying earlier is that the way the overall points work is that the top 20, it breaks it down, but first place gets 30 points, and then second gets 25, and then third gets 21, and then it drops basically from, it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from there as well. And yes, there is Thad Duvall leading on screen coming through the pro pits area right now, but the way the points work is it's 30 points for a win, 25 for a second, 21 for a third, 19 for a fourth, and then 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13.
So really, the thing that you got to point out is being in the front of the pack, first, second, or third, really is advantageous in a points chase race.
Absolutely.
And even a second and third, it's not going to give you the 5 points that you're going to want over the rider, but you are still going to gain some points.
Yes,
but
you're still going to make up more than just 1 point over somebody as well, because it's hard, you know, like Johnny and I both know about it as well. Yes,
guys, we're watching Thad. Oh, there is Caleb right in front of him. So we just missed him in the last shot. And our last 2 shots there, there is Caleb Russell. Look at that.
He looks to be having something hang off the side of his bike.
He's got some brush tied up or possibly some track banner. I'm sure these guys are sliding everywhere. You can see Thad.
Yeah, that right there. That right there, that's not a good thing for Caleb Russell right now to have in that rear tire. Now, what it is, I don't know. How easily it'll come out, that's the big question. I mean, you're looking at something that, you know, you've already got conditions that are not conducive to riding, and whenever you take into account you got that back tire that's oddly weighted, the way it's spinning, it's going to throw that bike around quite a bit.
That is also on the chain side as well, so that could be problematic as well. If he sucks that up into the chain, throws the chain into something like that as well, or it just even brings the motorcycle rear tire to a stop as well, that could arise many problems. And there's Ben Kelly actually shredding through the field section.
He's back up front. He's overall leader.
I don't know if he's got the lead, but
I don't know, man.
I'm excited to see. Look at that. Kelly really struggling with that corner. Man, it is slick down there. Oh, we got a rider that says, nah, forget that. I'm just going to cut inside the banner here. Not one of our top riders. So, you know, those guys, again, know the rules, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure they go around those corner poles. They're not going to take a chance. Trevor Bollinger down and around. Look at that. It's like an ice skating rink. These guys are just, they're making it look easier than most, but some of these guys are just saying, man,
it's starting to get deep.
Pouring rain again, folks.
And those turns down there are starting to get deep. That looked like a pro motocross, motocross national race turn down there, the way the ruts and the lines are starting to develop down there.
Yeah, I'm sure Johnny and I are definitely wishing we had a little bit of this yesterday, you know, definitely help both of us out a little bit.
Yeah, it would have been a big help to me yesterday. It was a struggle. But nonetheless, I'll tell you what, I'm really excited to see where Ben Kelly slots into this one on corrected time. I don't think he's gotten enough to take the lead, but I think it's going to be close. If you said it was 13 seconds last lap, I think he's either kept it the same or maybe gained a few seconds. I don't think he's made it. Before, when we saw him on screen the time before, it seemed like he was a little bit closer. I think maybe he pitted for fuel there as we're watching Caleb Russell on screen, the #1 FMF KTM, and that is track banner in the rear wheel. We can tell by looking now.
Yeah.
Not anything he's going to be too concerned about. That's just plastic. It's probably a little bit annoying if he can hear it back there, but other than that, it's not anything that's going to affect the workings of that machine. So he's going to keep the hammer down and should be seeing I guess not a 2-lap, sorry, 3 laps to go. And those guys, man, still look at them just absolutely covered.
Yeah, so that looked like they were about 45 seconds late that lap as well, Rodney. So they lost another. So basically, from the beginning of this race, they've lost almost 2 minutes off their original lap time, which just shows how technical this track is beginning to get. And if Ben Kelly could have kept the same pace up that he had last lap, that would mean that Ben Kelly would have gained nearly 30 seconds on those guys that lap as well. But we do not see Ben Kelly on the screen yet.
Yeah, I think Ben's going to come up a little bit short of being the overall leader, but he's not going to be too far out of it. There he is, the other #1 FMF KTM, Trail Jester's back machine of Ben Kelly, looking like he's really on a mission, and at this point, you got to assume he is solely looking to see where he is in that overall. At this point, he knows he has that XC2 class pretty well in hand at this point with a solid lead over the second-place rider, which we last knew to be Craig DeLong, and he checks in.
Still third place.
And how far is he out of it there?
And on adjusted time right now, elapsed time for Caleb Russell, 1 hour and 37 minutes and 26 seconds. Another 3 seconds back to Thad Duvall with 1 hour, 37 minutes and 29 seconds. And 8 more seconds back is Ben Kelly. So he's 8 seconds there. Actually, so 11 seconds out of first place right now.
Again, made up a couple seconds, 2 seconds. I mean, it's a little bit here, a little bit there, you know, but he needs, I'll tell you what, if he were able to get to where he could see those guys, I think he could reel them in. But right now, they're just far enough out of his sight that he's racing ghosts.
Well, there's Bollinger finally checking in physically. He's physically 4th on the racetrack and currently 4th overall, 1 minute and 24 seconds behind Thad Duvall.
Yeah, Bollinger looked like he was on a mission, but he looked like he had given up some time when I saw him out there, and it looked like he was maybe just starting to get frustrated with the conditions. He was pushing really hard, but man, in these conditions, I can't express to you folks at home on screen. You can see this raining. That is Grant Baylor.
Yes,
in the
that
pits,
is Grant Baylor in the pits. He looks to be having an issue.
He's explaining something to be wrong with that machine, and he has lost a lot of time. You can see he's off the bike. It looks like they're trying to figure out what's going on. I think he may be headed back out. We're not going to get a shot at it.
But I mean, just look how wide that corner is. You know, we have since lost the inside corner marker there as well, which, you know, most of the pros, you know, they'll still figure that they have to stay at least where that grass is outside of the grass, you know, because that is about where the inside corner is, and it's kind of like follow the leader. You know, whatever the leader does, you basically have to follow what they're doing so that you don't lose any time off of them as well. But I mean, just look at how wide that is. That's got to be 60 feet wide there, and it's just a pure mud straight away.
Yeah, and not only is it wide, it is slick. I mean, what you're looking at right there is basically pure ice. These guys should be coming into this section of track here within the next couple of moments. We're watching actually out of our booth. I can see that it appears that Stu Baylor has now gotten around Andrew DeLong. So we'll refresh the screen there, Hunter, if you want to slide over. Rodney stepped out for a moment
absolutely.
Here. Stu Baylor checking in. So this is going to be physically your physically 5th and 4th in that XC1 Pro class. If we get a refresh, we got to click over here. We should be able to see.
Yes, Johnny Gallagher has to currently help me with the technology,
but it's a little slow. So we'll get an update just as soon as we can on that. But I tell you right now, it looks to be.
Yes, Stu Baylor is 6th.
Yep. Now he is around, unless we missed. Yep, we missed Ricky Russell there.
Yes,
so Ricky Russell came through. But look at that, only 2 seconds behind Ricky. That's 31 seconds behind Ricky Russell is Stuart Baylor. So Stu Baylor now physically up into that 6th place position.
Yes.
And the leaders on screen again, Caleb Russell, the 989 Rockstar Racing Husqvarna of Thad Duvall in 2nd. And these guys are keeping each other in check. We'll try to get a split here if we can to see the tail of the tape on exactly what Ben Kelly has going on here. So those guys went out of view there at that corner at 141.25. So we're going to see where we're at with Ben Kelly, if we can follow him through that same shot.
Craig DeLong has actually dropped to 10th overall as well. He is still our 2nd place in the XC2 class as well. We have Ben Kelly is leading that one, and he is currently 3rd overall. So Ben Kelly's got a considerably comfortable lead there in the XC2 class. So he's basically right now, he is, as Rodney said, focused on that overall. You know, he's tracing, basically, he knows the pit boards are there. You know, I'm sure KTM's helping him, letting him know exactly where they are.
Craig DeLong actually just checking in right now.
Yes, there is Ben Kelly right there.
So Ben Kelly, so we were at 141.25 when they now that was when they left the shot. We panned away too quick. But I tell you what, it was 141.25, and Ben Kelly is at that spot right about now, I would guess. So that being said, as on screen, it appears to be Ben Kelly has taken over the overall lead on corrected time.
Yes.
Because now I was talking about the shot to the left there. They had not come across the bottom, so we won't see. There goes Kelly there. So I tell you right now, as they came through that section, Ben Kelly was inside of a minute. Now, assuming that they did actually start on the 1-minute intervals like they typically try to, Ben Kelly may have chipped away and taken that overall lead.
Sounds like we got an update with Mikey Waynes down in the pits. What's going on, Mikey?
Hey guys, down here in the Teely Energy pits, we got an update on Grant Baylor. Sounds like maybe a physical issue. Yeah, he crashed and bent his shift lever out real bad, or in real bad. But he says he thinks he's tore his groin muscle, so he's going to try and struggle through.
So Grant Baylor, after the rough start, man, making up some good ground, but now he's got another added issue with the potential groin injury.
Ouch. Now that right there, that's going to make it tough. And to see him still traversing these trails with that kind of injury, you know he's got to be in some pain right now.
Yeah, that just shows the conditions, just how slick it is. Our leaders just came by there on screen. Still Caleb Russell, still Thad Duvall, still wheel to wheel. No change there, but it still is a story that we are going to follow very closely, because this is the race for not only the overall, but also the race for the win in XC1, and again, valuable points towards that overall championship that both of those guys so badly want to carry away at the end of this 13-round series. Now, the spoiler for the day could turn out to be Ben Kelly. Now, here's a scenario we haven't talked about yet. Obviously, there's a 4-point or 5-point gap between first and second, a 4-point gap between second and third. What if Ben Kelly would finish in between those two on corrected
split
time?
the difference and
now
make it
you're
9
talking
points.
about a 9-point swing from whoever wins the race to whoever finishes third. Ben Kelly looking really strong. Feet on the pegs. Oh, look at a little stumble
neutral
there.
bomb.
He stalled the bike, so he lost a few seconds, but feet on the pegs and was looking so smooth through there. You can see why he's making up time on these leaders right now.
Yes, absolutely. I think Ben's a taller guy, so that's going to help him here in these conditions as well. And before we panned away, actually, we saw Trevor Bollinger getting a little rowdy in one of the field sections as well. He almost went for a little slip and slide action in the bottom field section.
Yeah,
but that was a good save on him as well.
That is what you call a tank slapper to a near high side. I mean, he was feet off the pegs, flying both directions, and when that thing caught, it just about spit him off the side.
Yes, absolutely. And there we've got, that looks like Ian Flynn coming through right now, one of our amateur riders as well. And there's Trevor coming through right behind him as well. Trevor's, as we said with Ben Kelly, he has feet on the pegs. You know, they've all been using that inside route, which I think is just a little bit of that comfort feel. You know, they've got that inside, you know, their foot's on the high, dry ground, or at least it's the high ground at this point.
There's no dry ground left in the state of New York right now.
Absolutely, and that is actually Jesse Ansley. He is our defending XC3 champion coming through the field sections right now. He looks to be working his magic in these fields. I'd like to see if we can get either one of the other two XC3 riders as well, with Nick Davis or the number 99 on the beta machine.
Yeah, we'll get an update as those guys come through the finish line. That actually was Cody Barnes that just went by. I recognize the riding style. May very possibly have been Nick Davis behind him. Can't say for sure. But Cody Barnes absolutely did come through. So Jesse Ansley has taken over that spot from Cody Barnes. Whether or not that's the lead, we don't know for certain. It looked to be another 125 behind them. Could have been Nick Davis. Could not. Wasn't able to pick him out. We didn't get quite a close enough shot. I couldn't see it well enough. But for sure, by the riding style and the machine, Cody Barnes is now behind Jesse Ansley. When we last saw, it was Barnes and Nick Davis battling for the lead, and Jesse Ansley a little ways back in third. Now we see some more lapped riders working their way through. Everybody riding the edges of the track, trying to get some traction out in the grass there, because nobody wants to fumble through these slick sections. Unfortunately, in the woods, guys, they don't have that option. You got to go where the track lets you. You got trees and brush and everything else blocking your path, and these guys are doing everything they can do to try and find traction. And man, clear vision on a day like today is huge. If you can keep your goggles clean, it can be the difference between winning a race and finishing 10th.
Johnny, you notice that easy up, that tent out there in the middle of the woods, and folks might be thinking, well, that's a good place to go set your easy up and go watch some racing. Well, I'll just let you know, that's one of what we call a checkpoint here in GNCC, and you guys know that there are 3 of those that are set up along the race course so that riders not only check in at the finish line, but there are 3 of these checkpoint areas that they must go through as well. And then if there's ever any question of whether or not a rider cut certain sections of the course, we can always go back and check checkpoint scoring.
Yes, and there goes actually Caleb Russell right now. He just pulled a little bit of his roll-offs as well, so he can keep his vision clear as well. And there's Thad right behind him as well. And you saw those guys are actually struggling to stay standing on the edge of the trail.
Guys, as we're watching a couple lap riders come through here, what we're seeing live out the front of our booth is the battle, the 3-way battle for the FMF XC3 Pro-Am class lead. Jesse Ansley leading, Cody Barnes second, Nick Davis third, and all you hear is what sounds like a mess of angry hornets. These guys are very hard on the throttle, chasing each other, giving each other all they can handle in the quest for the win in this XC3, FMF XC3 Pro-Am class.
Yes.
So it's Ansley, Barnes, and Davis now 1, 2, and 3, 4 seconds between Barnes and Ansley, and 6 seconds back to Nick Davis. Okay.
Yes, and we're going to head over to go over some of the amateur classes as well. As we see Ben Kelly coming through right now. He is still physically 3rd overall, and he is feet on the pegs once again, purely just ripping right by one of the monster signs out there.
All right, guys. Yes, we are going to take a look at some of these classes as amateur side of things. We've been talking a lot about the XC1, the XC2, and the XC3 classes. And just to give you a heads up, as we start the amateurs, let's look on the overall for our top amateurs overall right now. They are checking in with us at 23rd, 24th, and 25th place overall positions out of the 250A class right now. It was Nathaniel Tasha, the 384 in 23rd. He's leading that 258 class. He is your top amateur, or was anyway at last check. Ryder LeBlanc riding 5 seconds behind him in 24th overall and 2nd as top amateur and in the 258 class. And Simon Johnson another 3 seconds behind him, 3rd in class. And of course, I believe that was 25th overall. But let's take a look now at class by class breakdown as we check in with not the FMF XC3, but the Open A, and Evan Earl, the 256 from Blacksburg, South Carolina, an 8-second lead after 3 laps of racing over the 210 of Joshua Lee from Statesboro, Georgia. In 3rd place, the 454, Brady Myers out of Walker, West Virginia. 4th is Cope Becker, the 521 from Zanesville, Ohio. And 797, Dustin Vincent from Franklin, PA, rounds out the top 5. 6 through 10 is James Murphy on the 221. In 6th, 7th, the 515, Grant Marriott. In 8th place, 615, Zachary Hugel. 9th place, Jeremy Lanthier. And he's riding the 261 and the 844 of Carter Calkins, rounding out the top 10 of your Open A class. So the 258 class, again, the top 3 riders are vying for top amateur overall positions right now. Nathaniel Tasha, the only rider out of North Falmouth, Massachusetts, checking in with 4 laps complete. So that battle's starting to stretch out a little bit, and we'll check in with him in a few moments to see where he is in the overall. But at last check, Ryder LeBlanc was running in the number 2 spot aboard the 42 from New Florence, PA. Simon Johnson out of Bennington, Vermont, the 29 was 3rd. Nicholas Cordania out of Cheshire, Massachusetts was 4th, and Brody Johnson from Landham, South Carolina rounded out the top 5. Then in 6th place, 421, Tyler Brameth. 7th place, the 322 of Owen Guys. 8th place, 70 of Michael DeLosa. 703, Paul Petron. In 9th place, in 254, Benjamin Wright, rounding out the top 10 of the 250A class. Up next, Dominic Morris leading the 200A class on the 475 from Newark Valley here in New York. A minute and 26-second lead over the 155 of Sean Myers from Reimersburg, Pennsylvania. The 3rd place position, the 929 Dylan Zempel from Iron Station, North Carolina, another 2 minutes and 11 seconds back. 4th place, 490 Max Fernandez from Ottsville, PA, a minute and 15 seconds back in that spot. And 5th place, Ian Potter out of Candor, New York, another 2 minutes and 6 seconds back in 5th. And then as we look at 6th through 9th now, Logan Kiddick, the 506 and 6. 7th, the 448 of Kareem Lehman. 8th place, the 382 Thomas Ozelski. And then it looks like Matthew Perry, the 358, rounds out the 9 there in the 200A class. Tyler Soriano, the 4-stroke A lights leader out of Yerkesville, Ohio, a minute and 44 seconds over the 357 of Johnny Manera from Millville, New Jersey. Trevor Maley, the 425 out of Canada, runs in the number 3 spot, or excuse me, he's out of North Canton, Ohio. Then Canadian Frederick Bluen, the 587 is 4th. Colby Davis, the 150 from Berkshire, New York, in 5th. Then in 6th place, the 385 of Nathan Rector. 7th place, the 303 of Alex Luger. 8th place, the 175 Tanner Cowart. 9th place, Ian Flynn, the 422. And Gabe Potvin, the 374. After 3 laps of racing, rounds out the top 10 in the 4-stroke A lights class. Up next,
Rodney, if we can break him real quick here, look on screen. That is the battle right now for the top 3 in the FMF XC3 class. Wheel to wheel to wheel. Those 3 bikes you see, that is the leader now Davis, 2nd place now Barnes, 3rd place Ansley. We've watched this through the fields, and they've passed each other twice already.
Yeah.
Absolute throwdown in that class.
Yeah, when they came through the finish line, Davis had dropped from 1st the lap previous to that and was running 6 seconds back of 2nd place in the number 3 spot.
Yeah, and now back in the lead. Absolutely crazy.
It is. It's amazing some of the talents that these riders can showcase in these conditions. Oh, you're out. Well, put that on there. Say goodbye, Hunter Hart. Hey, Hunter Hart's stepping out. I think he's going to go get warm. He's been shivering. His teeth have been shattered.
He's got a long drive home.
Yeah, he does.
Yes, very long
Yeah, you have no excuses to leave today.
No, I got to go out there and, watch in person,
Oh, okay, I see. All righty.
Yeah,
well,
so
Hunter,
thank you,
thanks for
buddies.
stopping.
This is fun.
Yep, thanks for stopping by. It was good having you here with us. And And we'll continue with our junior A, Bs, and the B class riders coming up here in a few moments. Right now, though, let's talk about last night's EMTB GNCC, as we had a great showing there last evening. And, of course, Charlie Mullins, Hot Rod Charlie Mullins, able to pull it off one more time, Johnny Gallagher.
Yeah, you know, Charlie's really...
Good.
Charlie's really really showcased his skills, and I think I was thinking about this when I was out pedaling the other day. You know, these courses are so different from a traditional mountain bike course. A lot of your, you know, some of the pros that Specialized has brought in for this EMTB class, you know, a lot of these guys travel these races, but they've never ridden in conditions like this.
Right.
They're normally used to riding more, I guess, closer to groomed trails, I guess you would say, whereas these guys are, you know, they're struggling through some very technical sections, and Charlie Mullins obviously having the skills and the you know, the years of practice as a top XC1 GNCC dirt bike racer, now putting those skills to work as an EMTB racer.
Yeah, I watched schoolboy racing last night. Had a really good battle last night with Charlie Mullins out there for that first place position, but also a great battle came in with a couple of legends' sons who do not race motorcycles, who do not race ATVs, but we're talking about Barry Hawk and we're talking about Randy Hawkins. Their sons were out racing in the schoolboy class, and believe it or not, Mitch had about a 1-4 lead, and then Talon Hawk was able to chip away in the last 2 laps and able to take away the win. I seen Mitchell afterwards. I said, dude, what happened? He said, oh, I pushed too hard and ran out of energy there toward the end. So those guys are going to start getting some strategy. But Charlie Mullins takes another win in GNCC's EMTB, presented by our good friends at Specialized, as the new AMA National Championship is certainly starting to form what looks like its first ever champion.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Charlie Mullins has kind of handled this series from the beginning, winning every round, and again, just really putting those skills of his, showcasing them. And you know, that's definitely really cool to see Talon Hawk and Mitch Hawkins out there battling. You know, 2 riders that have never really partaken in, followed in their dad's footsteps, I guess, as dirt bike racers, but really are both taking to this EMTB scene. And who knows, when it blows up, they could be champions in their own right.
Hey,
in the
man,
future.
yeah, I mean, they're pioneers, if you will, and they could be setting some pretty big standards. Hey, Johnny, I want to check in with some more of these classes real quick. Please keep an eye on the monitor and let us know if anything happens and shakes loose. But right now, Junior AB 25+ class, we take a look at the 46 in Masontown, West Virginia's Andrew Boggs has a whopping 4-minute and 22-second lead over the 392 of Franklin, PA's Brad Vincent. Damon Rummel, the 381 from Stafford Springs, Connecticut, running back in the number 3 spot, about 1:38 off pace. 669 Jesse Kildo out of Elizabeth, PA, on a Honda is 1:14 back. In 4th. In 5th, Landon Smith out of Kingsport, Tennessee, only 12 seconds off pace right now in that 5th place position. 6th place, the 426 of Joseph McCarty. At 7th place, Wiley Brownell on the 627. Up next, Vet A class, Sam Forrester, the 48 from Elkton, Maryland, taking the lead in that one. 4 minutes and 37 seconds after 3 laps. Matthew Quick, the 412 out of Unadilla, is running second. 360, Surly Amancio from New Milford, Connecticut, in 3rd. 4th place, Wasley, Textria, the 354 from Brazil. The 5th place position is the 383 of Luenzo Sanchez from Kennesaw, Georgia. And then we've got 6th place, the 407 of Buddy Barnes. 7th place, the 805 Matt Modic. 8th place is Louis Oleon, the 187. 9th place, the 423 of Big Jim Steiner from right here out of the Nioa series. And 10th place, the 831 of Bill Zavindi in that Vet A class. Now we go to the Senior A class. Joe Potter, the 363 from Candor, New York, leading Smiling Frank Messina, the number 50, by 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Messina out of Campbell Hall, New York. 3rd place is old shotgun Sean Remington, the 51 from New Salem, Pennsylvania, another 1:05 back with the 136 of John Beaver from Gray, Tennessee, in 4th and 5th. Jeff Hooster, the 418 from Amesville, Ohio. Then in 6th place, Josh Hackett, the 370. 7th place, the 389 of Joel Stoles. Jason Stickley, the 920, is 8th. 9th place, the 452 of Gabe Goodman. And rounding out the top 10 in the Senior A class, Jared Ogden aboard the 975. And now as we look next, I believe this will be our Open B class. Anderson Nika, the rider from Austin, Pennsylvania, 373 out front of the 411 of Deacon Flynn.
Leader on screen, there is Caleb, no, I'm sorry, that is Ben Kelly. So we must have missed Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall, but that is Ben Kelly there it's hard to tell. They both have that number 1 on the back, but when he turned sideways, it became apparent that it was in fact Kelly. So we'll have to see just how much time he's been able to make up on Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall.
Alrighty, then keep an eye out there. Watch, let us know. Wesley Gustine again in 6th. Byron Anderson, the 982 in 7th. Spencer Welsh, the 955, is 8th. Brian Shell, the 710 in 9th. And Matt Sorge, the 82, rounds out the top 10 in Open B. Real quick, I want to check and see when our leaders are due in for a 2-lap board. And according to, I don't know if I can get it up there. According to timing and scoring, we're about less than 5 minutes out, so I'll burn through the rest of these classes for us real quick as we pick up with the 200B class. Tanner Collins, the 404 from Brooksville, Ohio, a 7.5-minute lead over the 219 of Max Russ from Iron Station, North Carolina. Dawson Kellogg, the 849 from Spencer, New York, is 3rd. 4th place Patrick Murray out of Chester, Virginia on the 459. 5th place, 353, is Andy Dindia out of Austin, Pennsylvania. Then Trevor Bowens, the 387 out of Newark, New York, or would that be Bowens, is 6th place. As we go next to 4-stroke B lights, Alexander Patterson from Cambridge, Ohio, the 232 with, wow, he just took over the lead from Hunter Cleveland. We'll see what happens with Cleveland as he's still due in to check in with lap 3 complete. 9 minutes and 14 seconds back of 2nd place. At the end of lap number 2, though, was Tyler Daniels, the 405 in 3rd. Corey Mihalek, the 394, Wareham, Massachusetts in 4th. Cole Henderson from Marietta, Georgia, the 808 in 5th. And Bryce Alkire, the 339, rounds out the 6th in the 4-stroke B class. Vet B class, and Adam Williams out of Waverly, New York, with a 2-minute 52-second lead over the 401 of Gary Bissang from Lexington, Kentucky. Michael Swartz, the 429 from Windsor, New York, in 3rd. Joshua Webb, the 911 from Montville, Ohio, in 4th. 5th place, 959, Chanley Torrizani out of Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, in 6th place. Brian Myers, the 432, the 402 of Adam Moulin. Ben Moulin, the 441, is 8th. 366, Joseph Larkin in 9th, and Ernie Martin rounds out your top 10. Senior B, I believe this will be our last class. Vinny Tomic, the 250 out of Bethel, Connecticut, a 2-minute and 7-second lead over Ego Soares, the 477 from Marlborough, Massachusetts. The 29 seconds back to Dennis Flint Jr., the 409 out of Windsor, New York, who's 3rd. 4th place, the 430 of Andrew Mallow from Pine City, New York. Darren Darmos, the 931, rounds out your top 5 from Amherst, Ohio. Then we've got 6th place, Scott Matheny, the 994. 7th place, 365, Peter Hicks. 435, Jason Wilson in 8th. 744, Mike Horwath in 9th. And 131, Gene Swidwa rounds out your top 10. And with that, we turn our attention back to the monitor. And Johnny Gallagher, who has been keeping a close eye on this one. A couple minutes out, we should be seeing our leaders check in, it looks like, for a 5th lap complete. Johnny?
There they are. They're in the VP Fuels Pro Row. Caleb Russell into the pit. Thad Duvall kept going. So that means Thad Duvall will take over the lead. And I tell you what, we were watching these guys struggle on screen to get through the VP Fuels Pro Row. This should be the easiest part of this racetrack, but it is proving challenging on a day like today with all the rain we've gotten. Thad Duvall now out front, and this will be the first time that he's had a sizable gap because Caleb Russell pitting, Thad Duvall did not. So this will be the completion of lap number 5 as they work their way through. They've got just about a mile to go, and we'll see him at the finish line.
Wow. Look how deep those ruts are getting, paddling his way through the likes of Thad Duvall even. That shows you the conditions.
Well, that's actually a lap rider there.
Oh, is it?
Thad is behind him. There's his Thad right there.
I thought, man, Thad is really slowed down. They're really struggling through that part of the racetrack.
There is Thad. You can see him pulling his roll-offs. You can see Caleb headed up the hill in the other direction. So you got to wonder, is Thad going to use this as an opportunity to try and sprint away? This is the first time these two haven't been within eye shot of each other. Now there is Caleb. He's not all that far back, but he's far enough back that if Thad's able to put a few lappers between him, he could potentially pull a gap.
Especially if they get into some of those wood sections out there coming up soon. We're coming around right now for the completion of lap 5. I believe we'll be getting a 2 lap boards indicating our 7 laps that we had announced a little while ago. So we're just about an hour before, 50 minutes or so before we'll see the checker flag fly. And wow, man, what a day this day has already been. And we're only 2 hours into this race, Johnny. I mean, the changes in the weather and the changes, the track, the changes in the competition and where they're at on the track right now.
Yeah, it's gone from what we're nearly starting to become good to perfect race conditions to now it's just a full-on mutter. As here we see that is Ben Kelly, the number 1 Trail Jesters KTM machine of Ben Kelly. And I tell you what, it threw me off because that is Ben Kelly, but picking up on the smaller things, those are not his goggles. He has picked up a pair of, I believe, Caleb Russell's goggles in the pits. He must have decided he needed some roll-offs and didn't have any ready. But he is hard on the charge and trying to get within that 1-minute window. He is not there at the moment, but he is still close. Now, Trevor Bollinger in VP Fuels Pro Row, he looked like he made a stop. He had some towels on his grips there to get a little bit better feel for the bars and to be able to hang on, because, man, is it slick when it gets that wet and that muddy, and that gets in your grips, and it's like trying to hang on to an ice cube on a cold winter's day.
No doubt about that, and we're probably going to be running 30 to 45 seconds off pace of what we saw a lap ago for our lead riders as they are about to check in. And there they are coming toward the finish right now, Johnny.
And look at that, Thad Duvall leading, but Caleb Russell has gotten right back to his rear wheel despite that pit stop. So Caleb must have been worried about that gap, because he really sprinted that section to make up that 8 to 10 seconds he lost while pitting, and he is now right back on the rear wheel.
He may have heard your analogy that if he gets out of sight, he won't be able to catch him. But, you know, Thad knows that. I mean, he doesn't have to hear that from us. He knows. That's his game plan. He knows how he has to beat everybody else, and he knows that's how he could get beat as well. So that's what he's trying to prevent from happening. And damage control right now, Johnny, seems to be working out pretty good for him.
It is. The one concerning thing, I think, if you're a Thad Duvall fan or in the Thad Duvall camp, is Thad Duvall would look like he was picking at his roll-off film as he came through those corners, not using the string, but actually trying to get his thumb up as though it might be sticking to the lens. Now, we know he bypassed the pits, and we don't believe he'd got goggles unless he got them out on the track somewhere else, which means that Thad Duvall may be struggling with some vision issues, and that is concerning considering he has 2 laps left and Caleb Russell just got fresh goggles. Whoa, look at this. Ben Kelly has made up some time, folks. Is he within that minute, or did we lose track of time?
Well, I don't know. That's what I've been kind of waiting here for. I should have checked the thing.
No, he's coming right now. He just crossed the finish line.
And at the end of lap number 3, Ben Kelly remains in the number 3 spot, still leading the XC2 class. Lap times that time around a 26:30 for Thad Duvall, a 26:36 for Caleb Russell, a 26:38 for Ben Kelly. Elapsed time, 2 hours, 4 minutes, and just under 1 second for Thad Duvall. For Ben Kelly right now, 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 16 seconds. So we're looking at just about a 15-second difference between those two is all that there is. So not a lot gained, not a lot lost there. Ben Kelly still well within striking distance as we roll now through these final 2 laps.
Yeah, so that's been a really solid ride Ben Kelly's putting in to be able to match that pace without being able to see those guys. He was 13 seconds down 2 laps ago. Last lap it was 11, and this lap 15. So he's just keeping it there. He's managing that gap, but he is giving it everything he has. And when he's getting those pit boards, he's just waiting to find out that he has finally chipped in and took back that overall lead, which he did have early in the race on lap number 1.
Yes, he did. And, Bollinger still hasn't checked in that 4th place position yet.
He's actually 2 turns from the finish. If we look out the front here, he's coming down. He's got 1 more up, and then he'll be coming through the finish line.
All righty, so Bollinger in for 4th physically on the racetrack and overall on time adjustments right now. So no big changes there. Wow, it's just a solid ride. I mean, this is the first time that I think we've seen Ben Kelly in actual physical 3rd place position. We've talked about the timing and scoring and time adjustments and putting him in those positions, but literally in the physical 3rd place position, it's not oftentimes you see this out of the riders that are doing exactly what Ben Kelly's doing. So again, another indication of, just how challenging of a day this is, and also another indication of just how solid Ben Kelly is in these types of, this type of terrain, no matter the conditions.
As we look here, Stu Baylor has now just checked in, and he is a rider that has now worked his way up to, now he's checked in, just came across, and he is very near closing in on Trevor Bollinger.
5th place.
fifth place overall, but he is closing in rapidly on Trevor Bollinger for that final spot in the top 3 in that XC1 Pro class.
I realized that, and I thought that Stu had it in it, that he could get to a top 5. Johnny, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it'd take him to close to the end of the race, those 2 laps. I thought it'd be that much of a struggle because there was a lot of time out there. But when we start taking a look at this right now, 43 seconds is all he is behind Trevor Bollinger.
There is your leaders on screen right there. Caleb Russell leading, Thad Duvall second, and those two still, wait, oh, change. Caleb Russell leading, Thad Duvall second. Last we saw it was Duvall leading and Russell second. So Russell made that pit, got those goggles, took some fuel, and is now back into the lead and opened up just ever the slightest of gap over Thad Duvall on the 989 machine. I mean, we're talking feet rather than seconds, but he's got a couple of bike length lead over Duvall, and you can see they're thick in lappers right now.
Yes, they are, and I'm doing 54 seconds faster Stuart Baylor was than Trevor Bollinger last time around. He was 43 seconds behind, so in theory, Stu should be able to work his way into a physical 4th place position and 4th place overall as well if he continues at this pace and Trevor doesn't pick things up. I mean, in theory right now, that's what we're going to be looking at. Another theory is right now, you know, we're still waiting to see whether or not Ben Kelly's going to be able to pull out that rabbit out of the hat. He's in perfect position to do that. Stu Baylor's in perfect position to do what he's trying to do as far as getting up the 4th. Great for salvaging some points in the points race for him as well. When we take a look at the big picture, especially if he gets around Bollinger, that's going to help a lot.
Absolutely, and there is Ben Kelly, the man of the day, the man of the hour. 3rd place overall, 1st place in that XC2 Pro Lights class, and looking like he has a very, very realistic shot. 15 seconds is all that separates him from his first ever overall win, and would be the first rider ever to win an overall from the XC2 Pro Am class, or Pro Lights class. It's been so close, so many times. Thad Duvall very nearly did it back at Snowshoe in the day. Battled the Titan, David Goliath, down to the last lap and lost that battle by just a few seconds. Ben Kelly actually physically led the overall at Ironman last year, was leading, and remember, he had that XC2 championship on the line. There was a ghost in the machine. He thought there was something wrong with his front wheel.
Right.
He felt something off. He felt like the front wheel was locking up. He pulled in, they changed the front wheel. He gave up a few minutes, was able to still obviously lock up that championship, win the XC2 class, but he did the safe thing and gave away what looked to be a sure overall. Obviously, Stu Baylor winning that overall, but physically leading it was Ben Kelly, and that may have been the only time we've ever seen that.
Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing it in my tenure, to be honest with you, Johnny, but I do forget a lot of things over the course of time. I see a lot of races, man, but those are things that would stick out in your mind. Grant
physically was very close. I think he had the leaders in sight, and I know he was leading on corrected time a number of times, at least once, but I don't know that he was ever actually physically leading.
I don't recall him being that's for sure. But regardless, this is a rather historical day, I guess, if you look at it in the big perspective of things. I mean, even if things change, Ben Kelly has made some major marks out here, and certainly as we are in north in these rockier, slicker, tougher conditions, maybe he might be more of a threat as the season wears on. These guys are really going to start looking at him as, I honestly believe they already look at him as a serious threat.
Absolutely. I think, you know, the guys, Caleb Russell, Thad Duvall, Trevor Bollinger, they know Ben Kelly's back there, but, you know, they try to focus on racing each other and putting themselves ahead of other concerns and really just kind of racing their own race. There is Ben Kelly. You can see him around the outside of a left rider, one dab, and he is on his way, just looking very fluid. Doesn't look like he's forcing anything, just kind of letting the race come to him. But I'll tell you what, as much as we talk about this very realistic possibility of Ben Kelly winning an overall, here's the downside of, not the downside of winning, but the downside of where we're at. Where the 2-lap card is out. This is where Thad Duvall and Caleb Russell typically pour the coal to it.
Yeah.
They turn it on, they push each other, they test each other, and they try to break each other. Ben Kelly has kind of benefited from them riding a smart, smooth race and has been able to set a phenomenal pace of his own, matching their every move and keeping himself in contention for this overall. But right now, in the last 2 laps, and especially after we see the white flag, the gloves are coming off between Thad Duvall and Caleb Russell, which means the pace is going to ratchet up. So Ben Kelly, maybe he's prepared for that. Maybe he's ready to wick it up again as well, and if he does, surely he's very much in this. But to this point, it's kind of been his Achilles heel when they ratchet it up at the end.
Well, I'll tell you, he said today, when I was talking to him in the pre-race report, he says, I'm not pushing at the end like I do at the beginning of the race. He says, and I have got more than enough left in the tank whenever I finish. And whether that was an indication that, he might be able to have something for him here today or not, I don't know. But it certainly sounded to me like he might have an idea that things might be starting to work in his favor if he can get this figured out.
Grizzly Grant Baylor is calling it a day.
Yeah,
no front
groin.
fender. You can see him limping. That groin is just too much. He was waving to another rider, and it's just too painful. On a day like today, with a groin pull, sometimes you can kind of try to keep your feet on the pegs and keep your balance. But on a day like today, you got to use those feet as rudders just to get around this track, and it's just too much pain for the Grizzly Bear to bear.
Oh, man, I tell you what, that's got to be an awful lot. You're absolutely right. By the way, I do want to point out to the race fans at home, Ben Kelly is featured on the event T-shirt. If you would like to have one of those, you're up in New England, like to have a GNCC shirt featuring Ben Kelly, log on to mototees.com. You can likely order one there, or you can give them a call and let them know that you want to order one and get yourself sent one there. So Ben Kelly event tees, mototees.com for those of you watching at home. There's Jesse Ansley in now. Let's check in with that FMF XC3 125 class now to see how things are starting to look there after four. Only 4 seconds was Ansley ahead of Barnes, and Davis was another 6 seconds back. But remember, physically, we've seen that change early in lap number 5 where Nick Davis was back out front. And I believe Ansley was second, and Barnes was back in the number 3 spot. So be interesting to see as they come in around for lap 5 complete what kind of changes we will see in that XC3 125 class. Is Nick Davis still out front, and is he pushing hard still?
I'll tell you a change we just saw. Caleb Russell leading, Thad Duvall second, and no longer on his rear wheel. Not a massive gap, but I would say a gap of at least 5 seconds. So that's the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the first time we've seen any actual time gaps, I guess you would say, between the two.
Yeah, maybe in one of those, but no, I don't think as much as 6 seconds. I think this is about as big a lead, a gap as we've seen all day long amongst those guys, and that's pretty impressive when you look at the big picture.
And we'll wait and see if we can keep on this shot. Ben Kelly should be our next rider through, our next non-lapped rider through. Those guys came through at 2:14.20. It was kind of when Thad Duvall left, so if we give or take a few seconds, we'll at least get a kind of a measuring stick for where Ben Kelly's at, and if he's making ground or losing ground on that overall, as it seems. I don't know, Rodney, it seems like those top two might be doing what we talked about, ratcheting up the pace. Ben Kelly, in his interview, he said he has more energy left. Is he going to use it? Is he going to tap into it? Or is he going to play the safe card, take the XC2 win, and kind of, oh, look at this. That is Kelly right there, folks. I believe he is inside that minute. I believe, based off of what we see on screen, if not, he is very close. I think he may have chipped away even further at that 15-second deficit. And at least at this point, at the 3.5-mile marker, I think he's down closer to potentially leading this or having chipped away at that 15-second gap. See some other riders working their way through here. We've seen so many riders struggle with these conditions today. Oh, I believe we've got an update in the pits with Mikey Waynes.
Thanks, Johnny. Yeah, down here with Grant Baylor, who you are clearly in some physical pain. We heard about the groin injury, what, about a couple laps ago? You're out there fighting it. What happened, man?
Yeah, it was like 2 laps ago, and I was on the rails. I was working my way up. I passed Toth, and I left him, and catching Ben, and I just lost the front end, something stupid, and the bike shot out from under me, and then I landed on top of the bike, and you can see the shifter bent from where it caught my freaking groin, and it was killing me. Every time I took my right leg off the peg, I couldn't even get it back on the bike. It would drag behind me for a couple corners until I got it thrown back up. But after that, I lost my front fender, just fell off, and I was just riding down the trail. It fell off, and didn't have goggles on, and I couldn't see where I was going. So this whole last lap, I was riding around in La La Land, and I don't see any point in finishing this when I'm back in fit like 20th overall or whatever I am. So I tried to salvage what I could, but luck wasn't on my side today.
There you go, Grant Baylor. Tough break for him, man. that's going to do it for him. Another guy out of this one here at the Tomahawk.
Wow, Grizzly Grant, what a grizzly look on that guy's face, man. He does look like a bear out there. Do you see? I mean, those guys, I mean, the mud. Look at the mud on that bike. And look at the mud on his clothes. Look at the mud on his face.
So
the grass.
much grass.
Yeah.
Rodney, if we can refresh our results there, our XC3 battle just came through, and I believe we have lost one rider. I think we're down to just 2 now. There they are on screen. It's Ansley leading and Barnes second. I think we've lost a rider. Let's get it up. It is possible.
Nope, Nick Davis came through and in the lead, 31 seconds ahead of those 2.
Look at that, Nick Davis putting in a heater. We saw him take the lead and looking like he was a man on a mission a lap ago in the pit. So apologize to Nick. Didn't see him physically come through, but he has pulled a 31-second gap on these guys. I tell you what, Nick has always been phenomenal in these conditions. He's an excellent mud rider, and he is putting on an absolute clinic in that FMF XC3 Pro-Am class right now on a bike he went out and bought. He's got on the graphics, they were talking about it earlier, he's got a picture of a cougar, and it says me. And he's sponsored by himself. You know, obviously got some help from friends and family, but you know, former
No, man, none of his friends and family like him. It's all him. He don't have any friends, and his family don't like. I'm just kidding.
He took that from the Ricky Bobby, you know, from the Talladega Nights, and he's all about having fun. It's a local race for him. Lives not far from here.
That's good too. You know, I mean, last time we saw him, how serious he was, and wow, reports are that Bollinger falls to the wayside as Stu Baylor has gotten around him physically.
Not surprised. Stu Baylor is a man on a mission.
He is. But like I was saying, you know, the seriousness that Nick had in his program whenever we last saw him, and, you know, how heartbreaking it was, and he had, you know, and obviously things not working out, this, that, injury, whatever, he left the scene. But coming back and having it in this capacity where there's really nothing to lose and everything to gain and having fun, that's the way to be.
I got an opportunity to speak with Nick a little bit earlier today and yesterday as well. And, you know, he was here. He had both of his boys with him, and they had a chance to go out and
Kingston.
yeah, apparently we should be in Ohio. It's sunny there. He had both his boys. His older boy, oh no, I'm struggling for the name right now. But I apologize. Forgot his name. Wyatt Davis. He went out and he told me, when I asked him how his Pee-wee race went, he said, I won both motos. So I guess they ran a 2-moto format, and Wyatt Davis taking the win in both of those motos. So an exciting opportunity for him to race his first GNCC as an Pee-wee rider, and then also, obviously, Nick Davis now leading the XC3 class.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm glad you brought that up. You know, that's something we haven't had a lot to talk about, what we got going on there.
Oh, I thought we had Caleb Russell, but it is not.
All right, while you mention that Pee-wee, some folks are probably like, what do you mean Pee-wee? Well, we started the E-mountain bikes, the EMTB GNCC this year. Well, you know, we've got all these little Pee-wee like machines that are running around, these little electric assist bikes, pedal assist bikes, whatever you want to call them. And so they decided, well, they're already out there. The kids, Charlie Mullins' kid, looks like also Crew, Caleb's little boy. You know, we always watch them around the pro pits running around. Then more kids started coming. Then more kids started coming. The next thing you know, they pretty much had their own little gig going. So we organized it for them at night, give them a little race and a little show, give them medallions and everything. And it's a really cool show. From 2 to 5 years old, kids are having a blast, Johnny.
Absolutely, and it's a great time to watch. I've tried to make it out as many as I could just to take in the action. And I tell you what, those kids, that you couldn't pull the smiles off their faces with the bulldozers that everybody's going to get pulled out of this parking lot with tonight. They're just loving every minute of it, enjoying it, and it's great fun. And again, it brings guys like Nick Davis back to GNCC racing. It's a local race for him, but he said one of the deciding factors was when he saw the EPV races. You know, his little boy Wyatt just wanted to get out there. He brought him. He said, well, since I'm going to be here, might as well race. And right now, leading that FMF XC3 class.
And again, just obviously a full-on point to prove that this is a family atmosphere. You know, we try to have something for everybody each and every night. Hey, Johnny, speaking of something for everybody, we want to have something for everybody and an opportunity for everybody to advance their skill level a little bit. And coming up Wednesday, leading into Snowshoe GNCC, it is going to be the GNCC University.
Yeah, absolutely. The GNCC University Snowshoe Campus presented by Yamaha. It's going to be a great time. You can reserve your spot through Snowshoe. We supply basically everything you need in terms of, the facility and all that. All you need is your bike, your gear, and the will to learn. And it's a really good time. It's a 2.5-day school. Covers all of the basics and some of the more advanced techniques of riding. Open to riders. I believe anyone above 5 years old or 7, I forget, but all the information is on the website. Yeah. And youth riders, age class riders, females, there's instructors for everybody. It's a great group of instructors. On the ATV side, it's current and multi-time XC1 and overall champion Walker Fowler, 11-time GNCCW XC champion Tracy Pickens, her husband Jeff Pickens, myself, and a great support crew of Mark Notman, Danny Fowler, some of the best in the business that make it go around out there to assist you. On the bike side, Randy Hawkins, Jason Rains, Ricky Russell, Becca Sheets helping out, as well as Rachel Archer and the rest of the NFAB AmPro team. Those guys will be there, and it's a great opportunity to really learn from some of the best, and it's filling up fast, so you definitely want to grab your spot. We're only 3 weeks away. It starts the Wednesday evening prior to Snowshoe. There's a meet and greet, and then classes on Thursday and Friday.
Reservations are on a first-come, first-served basis as well, Johnny, as there are only 40 spots each for both bike and ATV disciplines, totaling 80 spots. Students must provide their own equipment and must be at least 8 years of age, and machines must be of 85cc or larger. It's $500 per student. Registration, again, is now open through Snowshoe Mountain Resort. Call them up 877-441-4386, and that information and those details are available on GNCCRacing.com.
I tell you what, I think we may have Caleb Russell on screen. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is Caleb Russell. It is Caleb Russell. So as we see no Thad Duvall behind him, we'll have to wait and see just what we get for a shot so we can determine what the gap is here. But Caleb Russell looks like he's really pushing the pace and throwing caution to the wind, trying to open up a gap. Now looking behind him, there is Thad Duvall. So Duvall a little ways behind here. We'll see exactly what that gap is, but I'm thinking we're looking at a gap of upwards of 15 seconds at this point.
It's starting to open up quite a bit. We see that the weather is being a little more conducive to our Yamaha drone. So our Yamaha drone back in the air here and getting some nice aerial shots from the Seneca Highlands here. And of course, that's a good indication that obviously they've looked at radar. It looks like there shouldn't probably be any more rain coming in anytime soon. So hopefully we won't have any more. But again, I posed the question at this particular juncture, would it be better to have a little bit of rain, right? Not a whole lot, not a torrential downpour.
No more rain.
Okay, that answers that question.
No, at this point, this track is so waterlogged. The rain isn't really going to hurt it anymore, but it surely isn't going to help it. The only thing that it really throws a monkey wrench into his vision at this point. These guys, if they've got goggles, if they're able to stay out of the roost, they can probably keep their goggles pretty well maintained for this last lap of racing. But once it starts raining, that all goes out the window.
And another thing to point out about this mud, I mean, mud obviously and water are heavy. Is this mud as heavy as, say, the Ohio mud that you guys faced 2 weeks ago?
I normally would say absolutely not, but after this morning's 10 a.m. race, I was actually, Becca was washing her bike off to take it up to the podium, and the mud that was coming out from under the fenders was so sticky, I couldn't believe it. It really was stickier and heavier than I had anticipated. Ben Kelly on screen, the green number one FMF Trail Jesters KTM of Ben Kelly.
Now, he looks like he might have been drawn. That gap's starting to open up there, too.
He was doing so well. He had definitely chipped away at that gap when we saw him last. He was less than a minute, but I think at this point, I think he has now dropped a little more. Nothing crazy. He hasn't lost minutes, but I think we're going to see him back to, if not that 15-second gap that he was behind, plus the minute, obviously. So a minute on correct, or 15 seconds after the time correction. I think we might even see that creep up a little bit, maybe closer to that 30-second mark.
Right. It's starting to look like it's broadening out quite a bit as we roll through lap number 6. We'll be getting a white flag here in less than 5 minutes, according to calculations, if riders continue on pace. We've seen lap times dropping from just under 24 minutes now to 26 minutes and 30 seconds for your leaders. So a 2.5 minute gain in lap times. That's saying quite a bit about the conditions and how much they have, I don't want to say deteriorated, but how much more challenging they have become, I think, over the last couple of laps.
Slipping and sliding, man, slipping and sliding.
There, a nice aerial view of the pits, and look at that. That is, like you say, Johnny, normally that is one of the better parts of the racetrack, but that is as challenging as any as they come out of that woods around that Phoenix Honda factory team there by the T. Lee Energy pits. And it is a slow process for these riders to try to come up out of there. It looks like. Is that this? I don't know what it is, but this, I mean, some areas, and correct me if I'm wrong, and it might be because they're more topsoil in some places, but some areas seem to be a little deeper than others out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's, I think at some point, I don't know this, but judging by kind of walking around up here, at some point this was strip ground.
I was thinking that too.
Because
yeah.
there's not much topsoil, especially up here on top, but there's areas where they have either brought topsoil in or it kind of ran off the top when it rained. And some of these areas, you know, that you can see the grass is really green, really well mowed, and I think they have some other events up here as well. And those areas have a little bit better dirt, which good dirt is good until it rains. Then it becomes mud. You almost want that shale because the water just runs off it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, shale gets slick, but also, you know, the edges give you a little traction too, so it can help out to have some of that shale rock in there in these conditions, in my opinion anyway. I know it's slick, but again, you do get a little bit more traction. And you do have a bottom where you don't sink up so much and bottom out. And that gains a lot too, I think, in these conditions, not having to sink so deep.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when it starts to get as deep as it is out there in some places, it really is power robbing. So when it's slick, as much as it's kind of a throttle control game, at least you're not burying that bike. There is Thad Duvall looking as though he was in the pits. He has taken some fresh goggles and fuel. So we'll have to see what that gap is as he comes around. Caleb Russell is not sitting there in the pits from the looks of things. So Caleb Russell, don't know if he came in and made a quick stop. You can see that is Ben Kelly's mechanic right there.
What does that
and
pit board
the pit
say?
board said minus 55. Now, you have to wonder, does that mean he was 55 seconds behind or that he's 55 seconds behind after corrected time? So I think that, you know, he's when we last saw him, prior to this last time, I think he was inside that gap, but then when we saw him this most recent time, it is stretched back out again. So
look at the width of that track. That is just crazy. I bet it's 60 feet wide out there now.
Caleb Russell on screen. He is hard on the throttle and doing everything that he can to open up that gap, trying to get away from Thad Duvall. There's a tree. I think we may. There is Thad, possibly. Hard to see from the drone here. It's a bit difficult. I don't think that was Thad. Caleb is still working his way over towards that section, and they should be headed down into the woods any moment, and then up to the to the finish line.
They're going to be running on those trees if they keep pushing that side of the race.
Well, they're trying to find good dirt, and it just doesn't exist. I mean, it's so wet, so sloppy, so slippery. They're doing everything they can to try and find grip anywhere, and the grass looks better even if it's not.
So very challenging conditions today, creating a rather interesting race that's unfolding. We are due in a minute or so for our leaders if they stay on pace. Again, I'm going to assume we probably dropped time a little bit. We were at 26:30 for Thad Duvall last time around, 26:36 for Caleb Russell. I wouldn't be surprised if we weren't maybe in that 27-minute range this time around. But then again, like you said, they could have started pushing, and if they did, they might have shaved some of that lap time off, and that might explain the gap that is opening up between them now and Ben Kelly. That is, again, third place overall, not only on time adjustment, but physically out on the racetrack right now.
Yeah, he's physically worked his way into that position. I think he has given up a little bit of time on time correction. There he is on screen. Yeah, definitely more than a minute at this point now. So he is not going to be our leader. There is Caleb Russell actually working his way through the final corners, coming in for what will be a white flag waving. And as we look back, Thad Duvall has not entered the field yet. So this gap has grown. We're going to be looking at a gap of upwards of 20 seconds now as these guys. There is Caleb. He's checking in. He's got one more corner to go. Thad Duvall still not out of the woods. This gap has – oh, look at this. Is that Caleb Russell going down? Of course.
Yeah, it was.
He's collided with another rider, and he's stuck in the finish line, giving up valuable time right now.
All right, finally checking in, and I was right, 27:01, Johnny.
Yeah, that was...
I might have been wrong if he hadn't gone down, but...
valuable time that he gave up. I tell you what, he lost easily 10 seconds there, and that gap would have been probably 30 seconds, but now I think we'll be looking at maybe closer to 20. Thad Duvall coming down. He's got one more turn, and then he'll be working his way through, as long as he doesn't run into any lappers, through the finish line.
Well, you know, I'm beginning to wonder if that might be a much larger gap than 30 seconds.
He's in right now.
Oh, okay, just went in. I thought, okay, 31 seconds. Wow, you were right. Look at that. All over that. Thad Duvall in second place, 31:09. A lap time of 27:34. We saw his lap time drop 1 minute and 4 seconds on that lap.
Yeah, the conditions are tough. Now, he did have a fuel stop and a goggle change in there as well, so he probably gave up 15 to 20 seconds of that gap there. But we know that those gaps are continuing to shrink and stretch right before our very eyes. These two have never been farther away from each other than sight, and now Caleb Russell with a 31-second lead on Thad Duvall as the white flag is waving. I can tell you right now, Ben Kelly is not leading this uncorrected time for sure. He's not out in the field yet. Oh, there he is right now. He's just now come out into the field, so he is not going to be anywhere near ahead of Caleb Russell on corrected time. But again, this could play into the what we talked about earlier with that point swing. If Ben Kelly comes in between Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall on corrected time, that would be a 9-point swing. Kelly, one more turn to go, and he'll be checked in, and we'll see what the gap is. I don't think he's ahead of Thad Duvall. Rodney?
I don't think he's ahead of Thad Duvall either, as we'll see what the update is. And Ben Kelly is not ahead of Thad Duvall. 27:47 was his lap time. The gap now 32 seconds between second and third on adjusted time. So add another 30 seconds on to 31 seconds onto that. So he's now lost that minute plus another minute on top of that. Now this begins to I begin to question, because we're getting into that range now of 2 minutes or so where behind the leader physically, and that should be where we start to see Trevor Bollinger and Stu Baylor come into play. I realize that there's probably a little bit of a gap back there, but all of a sudden, if Stu Baylor gets Bollinger and he gets up to that fourth place physical place on the track, and Ben continues to just kind of run a steady race, and Stu can keep that momentum rolling, maybe we might see him physically catch him on the racetrack. But the thing is, if he does physically catch him, to gap him enough to get that minute back, that's going to be even more. So I think Stu, regardless if he gets him physically on the track or not, or Trevor, I think we're going to be looking at Ben Kelly holding on to a third place overall position, barring no major miscalculations, malfunctions, or anything like that.
Yeah, and that gap is just continuing to widen. We still have not seen Bollinger or Baylor come through. They are not even out in the field section yet, so they are well over a minute or more behind, plus that minute time correction, and they're still not here yet. I think we're going to be looking at, upwards of maybe 2-3 minutes until those guys check in, and then with the time correction, that turns into 3-4 minutes. So still don't see either of those guys out of the woods yet. So that begs the question. Stu Baylor we were told, was able to take over that spot from Trevor Bollinger, physically fourth place and third place in that XC1 Pro class. But being that these guys are so late and they're so far behind, who could it be next? It could be Ricky Russell.
Yeah, Ricky Russell, maybe even Andrew DeLong. I mean, that's a rider we really haven't even talked a lot about.
We got a battle. Stu Baylor, Trevor Bollinger, wheel to wheel. Bollinger around the outside, makes the pass on Baylor. Absolute carnage. Baylor coming back up the outside. These guys are all over each other, battling over that fourth place. It's not on screen. We're watching it out at the front of the booth. And these guys are absolutely throwing it down all over each other, coming through the finish line.
All right, well, the white flags are waving for this, and let's see how what the tail of the tape tells us as they come through.
Oh, they're stuck together at the finish line. They are stuck into each other at the finish line right now.
Trevor Bollinger has credit for the position. 3 minutes, 39 seconds now behind, I guess that would be Thad Duvall, and Stu Baylor is listed at 1.6 seconds now behind Trevor Bollinger.
Change. Throw it out the window. Baylor just made the pass. Bollinger got stuck in the rut coming out of the finish line, and Baylor has about a 5-second lead on Trevor Bollinger as they leave the scoring tent.
Wow.
These guys are making a race of it, folks.
They most certainly are, making a lot of fun out of it. And unfortunately, neither one of them will technically see the overall podium. Again, unless something happens to Ben Kelly. But, man, what a battle. I mean, even amongst themselves, it's good for points. It's overall points that they're battling for right now, and both those guys are needing it. And you look at the point standings right now, those two are battling for third place overall behind Thad and Caleb right now, who are battling for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. And those guys are trying to keep themselves in contention for that championship. Should the leaders, which have a sizable points gap right now, but should anything happen to either of those leaders or both, one bad race for each of those guys, and Bollinger And Baylor could find themselves back in the thick of a championship hunt. So every point counts, and they're fighting like it's their last point ever.
They are. Ricky Russell expected to check in the number 6 spot, but check this out. Andrew DeLong up to a 7th place position on that Phoenix Racing Honda. He was about a minute behind Russell last time we saw him.
Caleb Russell on screen, folks. Ben Kelly. That's about the 5th time that's happened. They look the same until they turn, and you can see. Yeah, you can tell the difference by the TLD helmet instead of the Bell helmet that Caleb Russell wears, but that is really the only difference between those two. So Ben Kelly, now they're 3rd physically and 3rd on corrected time at the 1.5 mile marker. So still the same order and roughly the same gap on Caleb Russell leading Thad Duvall roughly 31 seconds behind him at our last check that we saw them. We'll see them again, I believe, at the 3.5 mile marker will be the next time we see those guys coming in. And from there, it'll be just waiting and watching until we see them pop out into the fields. Hopefully we can get a drone shot. Man, as much as we would like to, be able to relax here a little bit, how cool would it be in these conditions to see a battle wheel to wheel coming to the finish line, Rodney?
Oh man, I won't want to see that. I don't know if I can handle that.
Well, you're old. Your heart can't take it.
No, actually, that's what I'm counting on. That's what I'm banking on. I actually called Vegas a little while ago and placed my odds on a wheel-to-wheel battle and the gap to be less than 3 seconds. That was my bet, the gap to be less than 3 seconds. I did not say who would win, but I bet a gap of less than 3 seconds. Johnny, as we take a look at these conditions here this year, one thing that we've had, it seems like through all 5 years, there has been some inclement conditions of some sorts as we've come here. But at the same time, we've also ended up with, the weeks leading into it, it might have been wet and there's some wet spots out there, but a couple of years, at least maybe 2, even 3, we've ended up with some dusty conditions. If I'm not mistaken, did we not have a rather dry race here last year?
Yeah, things were really dry here last year. It was dusty. It was absolute just, survival with not being able to see anything with as dusty as it was. As you can see, Ryan Sipes pulling the early lead and the whole shot on that one. Caleb Russell right in there behind him, and this one turned into a barn burner early.
No doubt about it. As we roll through here, there is the conditions from last year. You can see, man, a 180 as far as these conditions. These trails look absolutely nothing like they did 1 year ago.
Yeah.
You could take a snapshot side by side, and I don't think you could see that they are the same areas by no stretch of the imagination. But wow, amazing, really. How well the rain leading into this, not just this weekend's rain, but we got to talk about the weeks and months of rain that's been having, how strong this facility is here today. But as you can see, out in those open field sections, I think the saving grace last year, it was windy, a little bit of wind blowing, and that was what kept the vision, at least on Sunday's motorcycle race, that's what kept those riders' vision where they could actually keep a nice tight race and keep a good race and a good battle going.
And a tight race it was, one of the tightest we've seen in GNCC history. Caleb Russell coming through with Trevor Bollinger literally on his rear fender. They battled it out like that. We saw that whole time, Rodney. They were just wheel to wheel to wheel, just absolutely all over each other. Thad Duvall coming through, another solid ride for him. You can see he was hard on the throttle, but just wasn't quite enough to get the job done. Caleb Russell winning, Trevor Bollinger second, and Thad Duvall third. So again, the top 3 from last year throughout much of the race were the top 3 in the XC1 class today. Ben Kelly's kind of been the spoiler, and now Stu Baylor's throwing his hat in the ring, trying to bump Bollinger back, even in that XC1 class, back to the 4th place spot.
Again, it's all about the points at this point, I'm sure, between these riders. And we're talking paychecks, we're talking contingencies. There's a lot that's riding on this. When we start talking this, Johnny, yeah, there's points there. But, whenever you're looking at wins or top 3s, there's bonuses in some of these guys' contracts. If they finish strong enough or finish in certain positions, they get bonuses. And, so, yeah, this becomes pretty important for these guys to battle it down to the wire like this for these positions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot on the line. There's points. There's bonuses per race win, and again, pride. I mean, these guys, Trevor
Pride,
Bollinger,
that's a big part of it,
Trevor
too.
Bollinger and Stu Baylor right now, I can assure you, neither one of them are thinking about dollars or points. They've raced their whole lives, and they know that when there's someone in front of them, they pass them. And especially those two guys, I mean, they've been teammates, they've been friends, they've known each other for years, and neither one of them wants to be the one at the end of this. Of course, they're both going to shake hands, they're gonna high five, and they're gonna say what fun it is. But the only one that really had fun is the guy that comes out on top.
Yeah, I have to tend to agree with that one. But still some good memories made out of these races and these tight battles like this as well. Checking in, Ricky Russell. We were talking about Ricky Russell and Craig DeLong. Both riders have checked in now. Ricky Russell is actually, okay, here's the way it is. Bollinger in, 3:39, a second behind Trevor Bollinger. Back to Ricky Russell, another 3.5 minutes. And then Craig DeLong is checked in. He is solidly in that 7th place position, but he is pretty much settled into pace 2. He dropped another couple minutes there. He's now 7 minutes and 35 seconds back in that number 7 spot. But wow.
And to think early in the race, he was literally matching Ben Kelly's pace. And
right.
Now 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's crazy. He's up to 7th. His big brother Andrew also putting together a great run. He's only a minute and 10 seconds out of that 6th place or 5th place position in the class behind Ricky Russell. Craig again splitting the difference on time adjustment. But yeah, I mean, both DeLong seeming to do very well. Obviously, we haven't seen Andrew in a podium position race, but here he is. He's running top 5 in the XC1, and I think this could be maybe one of his better finishes so far this year, if I'm not mistaken, at least in class.
This for sure would be his best finish in class, and I think his best overall so far is a 7, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be that would match his best, and in conditions like this, I mean, if you can get a season best finish, that's a good day.
Yeah, and at the halfway point and the midway point, coming to a new team, a new machine, and everything, there's some big pluses and some big bonuses for your program, and have got to give you the incentive to keep pushing forward. And talking with him earlier today, he said he's as happy as he's ever been, probably happier than anywhere he's ever been. Loves the team, loves the atmosphere, loves the bike, and everything seems to be working out. Caleb Russell leading this one, Thad Duvall in 2nd, Ben Kelly back in 3rd, and that's physically as well as time adjustments. Trevor Bollinger 4th and Stu Baylor in 5th as far as the overall is concerned. But again, whenever we look at the XC2, Ben Kelly, Craig DeLong, and Liam Draper, whom we haven't even mentioned yet, back there in that number 3 spot. Mike Witkowski is 4th. Jonathan Johnson in 5th, and again a quick check of that XC3 class. Nick Davis still out front, Jesse Ansley in 2nd, Cody Barnes 3rd, Lipscomb in 4th, and Marsh in 5th. Stick around, folks. GNCC Live will continue after this. We're going to find out who's going to win this one.
The 2019 Yamaha YXZ 1000R sets a new standard for all sports side-by-sides, offering increased performance and expanded drivability over a wider variety of terrain, improved overall comfort, and Yamaha-proven off-road durability. There's no other side-by-side like it, not even close.
Consistent clutch feel is vital to effective starts, or to confidently maneuver around obstacles on the trail. AMSOIL synthetic dirt bike oil was subjected to an extreme simulated start test. After 32 simulated race starts, AMSOIL synthetic dirt bike oil continued to deliver consistent clutch feel, and the clutch plates remained clean with no visible wear. The competitor's oil, however, allowed discoloration and significant wear after just 16 starts. AMSOIL synthetic dirt bike oil. Give your bike the protection it needs.
Grand National Cross Country, a race like no other. 2 hours of battling in the toughest conditions an ATV may ever see. And you get to watch it in the comfort of, well, wherever you want to be. Just click us right here, live on Racer TV. It's tough out here in the great outdoors. It's summertime, and things will get heated. Do you have what it takes to be part of the action? The Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Championship will put you to the test, but reward you with the thrill of a lifetime. Join the fastest motocross racers in the world as they endure the elements and the toughest racetracks in America for national championship glory. Tickets for the High Point National in Mount Morris, Pennsylvania on June 15th. Available at promotocross.com.
New York State's premier off-road race series offers safe, friendly competition for all ages and abilities. Join the Nioa Series to compete for an AMA-recognized #1 plate. The Kenda New York Cross Country Championship features tracks throughout central New York and provides challenging courses, a family-oriented environment, and racer camaraderie. 14 rounds test both rider and machine in this action-filled air scramble series. To learn more, visit nioa.net, and we'll see you at the races.
This Racer TV broadcast is brought to you by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. Specialized Turbo e-bikes, it's you, only faster. And by Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Get ready.
And welcome back to GNCC Live. Rodney Tomlin along with Johnny Gallagher and, of course, Mikey Wayne's out and about with us today. I want to say thanks to Hunter Hart for stopping by a little while today as we roll through this the Dunlop Tomahawk GNCC. Again, as we pick up here, we are on the final lap. White flag is waving. We've got Caleb Russell out front of Thad Duvall. At last check, there was about a 30-second gap. And, again, physically in third, the XC2 250 Pro Lights class leader Ben Kelly, and third overall, even after time adjustments at one point earlier in the race. If you're just joining us, Ben Kelly was leading and was only a handful of seconds out of the first place position, probably through the first 4 laps of racing. We've seen that gap open up over the last 2 laps, especially since the rain started to fall. But actually in the early part of that rain, Johnny, Ben was looking pretty strong and making up time, it looked like.
Yeah, absolutely he was. He was definitely chipping away at that gap, getting closer and closer, and I think what really kind of shook that up was when Caleb Russell got the lead, it looked like he really started pushing hard, and Thad Duvall obviously had to pick up the pace, ratchet it up to try and keep up, and that is what has opened up that gap in the overall and dropped Ben Kelly back to the 3rd place spot. On screen, that is Jesse Ansley really struggling. That is your defending FMF XC3 Pro-Am class champion, struggling in the mud, still in that 2nd place spot, but if you look way up there in the overall, Nick Davis, 14th overall, and having to seemingly be a pretty large lead now in that FMF XC3 class, as Ansley now does check in, and he moves up to the 16th place overall. So he is not all that, but when we look and see, 1:19 behind Davis. So what last lap I believe was a 30, give or take a 30-second gap, is now 1:19. And I do not see Cody Barnes. He has not checked in yet, and he is not in the field heading to the finish line. Oh, I stand corrected. There is Barnes right there. That was a rider that just left on screen, and he is now checked in. So I'm going to say he's roughly maybe 30 seconds back of Ansley. What do we have there?
Yeah, I believe it was. Let's see, there's Ansley and then Cody Barnes. Oh, better update that.
There is Barnes on screen.
Yeah, 38.8, so just under 40 seconds, I guess.
Recognize the tall man on the 125. He's leaning off the back of that thing, trying to get some bite, trying to get some traction, and he is in pursuit of Jesse Ansley. Now, Nick Davis looking to have the win pretty well in hand today, although with the conditions being what they are, you can never count your chickens before they hatch. But really, Barnes and Ansley are the ones that are fighting it out for this FMF XC3 championship. You know, Nick Davis just here for a one-off thing. Who knows, maybe he'll run some more races. But with this being round 7, he is not in the championship hunt. And even if he would come out and win some more races, he cannot race himself into the championship battle. So it is between those two at this moment. And that's where they're really fighting it out for those points, and only 38 seconds separating them at the white flag.
Approaching 2 hours now and 50 minutes into this race. I'm jumping back into the XC2 Pro Lights class. And leaders. Oh yeah, leaders for the real quick. Leaders in the XC2 250 class, which would be Ben Kelly, will be due in about 10 and a half minutes. Our leaders are due in right at about 10 minutes for the XC1 class of Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall, right at the 10-minute mark. And right now, as we look at the XC2 250 Pro Lights class, Ben Kelly, Craig DeLong, somebody we haven't even talked about today. We really, I mean, because of just the way the action has been unfolding and stuff, but Liam Draper, we had a really good run out of Liam Draper in Ohio a couple of weeks ago, and look at this. I mean, he's having another strong run. He's running in the number 3 spot. He's 1 minute and 49 seconds behind Craig DeLong right now, and has only a 9-second, or had only a 9-second lead over Mike Witkowski. So we got a pretty good battle going on right now for the 3rd place position in the XC2 250 class.
Yeah, and Draper's one that has been so close to getting that first XC2 podium. He had it in hand in Camp Coker, and it got away from him on the last lap. He seemingly had it pretty well in hand in Ohio, got away from him again. So good rides, but they've been coming up just short of where he wants to be, which is on the podium. He wants to get up there, he wants to thank his sponsors, he wants to tell his story, and he wants to pop some champagne. So today, he's on a mission to do that, but only a 7-second gap over Mike Witkowski. So the 282 factory beta machine is doing all he can do to get up there, thank his sponsors, pop some bottles, and celebrate on the podium. So those two are going to be ones to watch as we watch now at 2 hours, 51 minutes and change into this racing action. We're expecting to see our leaders of the overall, which are Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall, coming in here within the next 10 minutes, and we should see him on screen here in this section of fields probably in less than 5 minutes.
Also a little further back, Witkowski, as we said, in 4th. Austin Lee is about 5 minutes now back in the number 5 spot. Ben Bowens, we remember this guy, right? Batman. We've seen him race the XC1 class several times over in Unadilla. Had the Batman symbol on the front. That's what we just said. But anyway.
Caleb Russell on screen there, taking a look over his shoulder to see where Thad Duvall is at. That is Caleb Russell. He's on screen. He has now crossed the road, and he's got not much room left here of racetrack. Less than 2 miles between him and a win here at the Tomahawk GNCC. You can see, look at those lines to the insides of the banner. Caleb Russell being very careful to make sure that he goes outside of all of those corner pole markers. Whoa! Thad Duvall right there, folks. 31-second gap has been all but erased. We're looking at less than 10 seconds. Rodney, you better get ready to cash in that bet in Vegas, because this one might come down to less than 3 seconds on the over-under.
Here we go. We're hoping so, and that's what we bank on, man. That's what I really live for, is those types of racing. And Johnny, I got to tell you, man, I said it probably a million times over the course of my career of announcing GNCC racing. It totally amazes me of how tight these battles are at the end of 3 hours of racing, or at the end of 2 hours in the ATV racing side of things. How closely knit these guys are within seconds like that, and to be able to see this on the horizon yet again, what looked like things are going to be stretching out, and we're going to see a little bit of a gap at the end. Well, now we're looking at what looks like could be, especially if Thad keeps this momentum up and Caleb doesn't pick the pace up so much, we could see that, and we could be right back to where I'm talking about that. I told you, I'm looking for less than 3 seconds. I say that because I know the heart and the will and the drive of both those riders and how bad both of them want to win.
I'll tell you who does not want to see this come down to less than 3 seconds, and that's Caleb Russell. Here's why. Look back to Steel Creek this year. Caleb Russell makes the move, takes the lead, has a little bit of a gap. Lapper messes up in front of him.
Right.
Thad Duvall makes the pass on both of them, takes the win. 2 weeks ago at the John Penton, Caleb Russell pulls away, has a little bit of a gap in the final miles, and at this point, you're almost thinking it's a foregone conclusion. Lapper sticks in a rut in front of him. Thad Duvall rides around both of them and takes the win. Thad Duvall is the absolute master at maximizing those last lap passes. He knows the track, he knows where he needs to be, and he's there to pounce if any adversity pops up for the riders in front of him. Caleb Russell is in the defensive spot right now, which is not where, obviously he wants to be leading, but that 31-second gap was a comfortable margin. He could fall down, he could get stuck as long as it wasn't anything major, and he could still pull it out. Now, less than 10 seconds, that's not comfortable for anybody. He's looking over his shoulder, he's keeping him at bay. Here's one thing to consider. There's a gnarly little section of woods here right before the finish. There's about 10 lines through it, and if the slightest little miscue in that could cost you 15 to 20 seconds. Caleb Russell only working with a 10-second gap. He's going to be stressed to the max until he comes out to the final turns in the field.
I think we might have witnessed that yesterday with the battle between Cole Richardson and maybe not Bryson Neal in that battle for second place. We had some that last little section of woods kind of separated some things, and we might see that same thing happen here on the two-wheel side of things, or might tighten things up.
Yeah,
I mean, that's you know, that's the exciting part of that. It can work either way depending on which rider has the issues, if there are issues that arise in that last section. But right now we are just about 3 minutes out from when we should expect to see our leader check in. They should be coming through the pro pits here pretty soon as we take a look at things from our Yamaha Racing live drone. And again, just the
I think that might be Caleb Russell on screen. Hard to tell for sure, but I do believe, judging by how hard that rider is on the throttle, that is Caleb Russell. So we'll see what the gap is as he goes around that chicane there. It's not looking like Thad Duvall is right on him, but again, it was about 10 seconds when we saw him crossing the road. But Caleb Russell definitely in a hurry, does not want to let Thad Duvall get any closer than he already has. Too close for comfort is where he's at right now. We think it was less than 10 seconds.
Well, the sun coming out here on this this beautiful day. It opened up with a little sunshine, some clouds at the same time, and then some rain showers, and now more sunshine toward the end of the day. We've gone the entire gamut. The only thing we didn't see, it felt like at one point we might see a little bit of snow up here. It got a little cold, but things are starting to warm back up, and things are really heating up for Caleb Russell as he winds his way through the closing moments of this Dunlop Tomahawk GNCC.
Look at that, Rodney. All he's doing is looking at the lane over him. He wants to know exactly where Thad Duvall is. He's taking a look over. He sees him. He knows where he's at. We'll see Thad will be coming the other way. Well, just missed him. In the shot coming the other way, we could see Thad there. He was one chicane behind Caleb Russell. And it is not much of a gap, but I'm thinking probably about 12 to 15 seconds is what we're working with here, Rodney.
Well, that's not a lot, but you know what? It only takes 1/1000th of a second to win the race. So that's all that we're looking at right now.
There is Thad Duvall on screen right there. Caleb Russell threw that shot and away. There's our buddy the tree again.
And again, about 2 minutes out. Actually, about a minute out now from when we expect to see our leaders there at the finish line as they roll past the 9-mile marker. I know that's changed a little bit with the course changes and things like that, but still right around a 10-mile racetrack these riders have been traversing on, and we wait through this final mile as these riders work their way toward the finish line.
They're down, they're into the woods. There is Thad Duvall. He is now working his way down towards the woods. Caleb Russell, we believe, has already gone through here and is down into that wood section. This is the final wood section, and from here, once they pop out, we'll see them just there on the other side. You see the line where they come out. So they'll be popping out there, and they'll be headed up the hill. That is a lapped rider there. We will still have to wait for Ben Kelly, but I think our leaders will be through the finish before we see Ben Kelly in this section of racetrack, or at least working their way to the finish as that happens. We wait and we watch. I think we're looking at less than 30 seconds until we see Caleb Russell pop out of these woods and start to climb this hill.
Wow, 2 hours, 58.5 minutes is what we're looking at right now. We're almost going to nail 3 minutes. And as we look into the closing chicanes here, it looks like
Caleb Russell working his way through the final corners to the finish line. There he is, right there on screen, folks. 2 more corners, and he'll put the finishing touches on this one.
Well, here it is, Caleb Russell. For so long, these wins here at the Tomahawk GNCC eluded him, but here we go, 2 years, and finally, Caleb Russell goes back-to-back here at the Dunlop Tomahawk GNCC, takes the win, and win number 58 of his career as he rolls toward his 6th national championship, and, of course, looking for big things more here in 2019. Johnny, I tell you, you can't take anything away from this one. You know, I said 3-second gap at the finish. 16 seconds was the gap for Thad Duvall, and look at these guys.
Look at the bottleneck coming out of scoring.
Wow, that has got to be rough. I mean, that just goes to show you, as these guys come out of scoring, what it's looking like out there. And, you know, again, we only see just small areas of this racetrack. We did not see probably the worst spots on this racetrack at all, Johnny.
Oh, look at that. That bike is badly overheating. He's got steam everywhere. That machine is about expired, and the rider pretty tired as well. You see Caleb Russell and Thad Duvall fist bumping each other. They had a heck of a time. This guy says, "Man, I'm glad this one's over."
Wow, you can see he's certainly worn out. Hey, you know your buddies can help you push it to the finish line. You just got to push it over the finish line yourself.
And once you've crossed it, they can help you push it back to the truck.
There you go. I don't think he wants to move right now. Somebody carry me back to the truck's probably what he's thinking, what he thinks they're looking. But wow, what a day. Waiting still for 3rd place to check in. I haven't seen Ben Kelly check in. Look at the smile on Caleb Russell's face. A far cry different than 2 weeks ago for sure.
Look at on Auntie Colin, and he looks like a drowned rat. I've never seen Auntie look like that. Completely covered in mud, These guys are out there showing their riders the lines. Thad Duvall, there's the face of a hard-fought battle. Goggles off, eyes full of mud. You can see these guys had a lot of fun out there, but I bet you they're glad this one's over.
Oh, I guarantee you they're glad it's over. And I know they can hear us right now. So, guys, thanks for a great show today and a great race. You put on one spectacular ride. There's no doubt about it. And one for the ages as, again, Caleb Russell pops off win number 58. And, of course, that he is ranked first in the all-time wins record on the two-wheel side of things. And I think maybe third or fourth overall in the ATVs and motorcycles combined together. But regardless, 58 wins, that's pretty monumental. I mean, just yesterday, Walker Fowler celebrated his 50th win, and it just amazes me how fast these things are racking up for these two prodigies. Both these kids expected to do great things in their pro careers, and both of them are doing just exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, these guys, they never quite battled each other as amateurs or youth riders. They were always out there at the same time, but in different classes.
Yeah.
So we waited, and the time has come. They're together. They're top XC1 riders in the last several seasons, and even more so this season. Man, is it exciting to watch. These guys just push each other right to the limit. Yeah, and look at that. That man right there, the man of the hour in the XC2 class, and was for quite a bit of the race the man of the hour in the overall, but finishing out in the third place overall, Ben Kelly.
Wow, that right there is something to be proud of. Again, featured on the event T-shirt. Moto Tees, if you want to get one back home and you're watching this one online, go to mototees.com. If they don't have them available for purchase online just yet, call them at the office. They will ship you one with no problem. And, of course, with that, again, it is Caleb Russell taking the win here. Thad Duvall in second. Ben Kelly, again, big major feat here. Not only third overall in adjusted time, but third physically on the racetrack, leading this race in the early part of it, and was a huge and monumental threat as far as mixing things up in this points race chase. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll get the story from all these riders coming up here in just a few moments to find out what it was like from their perspective as we watch it all unfold. Stick around. GNCC Live continues.
This week in Yamaha history. The 2010 Mountain Ridge GNCC in Somerset, Pennsylvania was a wet one as GNCCs go. It was a free-for-all from the start as the riders eased their way through the first turn. Riders like Paul Whibley, Barry Hawk, Nate Caney, Mike Lafferty, and Chris Bach and more found the extreme conditions challenging all day. As the day wore on, the track got better, and so did Yamaha's Charlie Mullins. Starting the first lap in 7th place, Hot Rod was able to find his way to the front of the pack by mid-race, where he led the field to the checkers, capturing his third straight win that year on board his Ampro Yamaha. And fellow Yamaha rider Barry Hawk rounded out the podium that day. And that's this week in Yamaha history.
New York State's premier off-road race series offers safe, friendly competition for all ages and abilities. Join the Nioa series to compete for an AMA-recognized #1 plate. The Kenda New York Cross Country Championship features tracks throughout central New York and provides challenging courses, a family-oriented environment, and racer camaraderie. 14 rounds test both rider and machine in this action-filled hare scramble series. To learn more, visit niowa.net, and we'll see you at the races.
Odessa, New York, and this Dunlop Tomahawk GNCC as we wrap things up. Race time today, 2 hours, 58 minutes, 55 seconds for Caleb Russell as he posted win number 58 of his career, and again gained a few more points, separating that championship points battle just over a few over 20 points. And of course, right now, Mikey Wayne standing by with our race winner.
Well, thanks, Rodney. Yeah, down here with Caleb Russell. Caleb, man, gnarly one.
Whew, it was really fun there for a while. I was a little optimistic coming into the race this weekend. Just the way my bike was feeling and the way I rode at the last race, it has a hard base underneath like this place. And yeah, I was just a little uneasy and not really sure where I was going to be. And I made a couple little changes and got out there, got going, and man, my bike was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was working awesome. It was working perfect out there, really. And the rain came down, and I was loving it. It was the best thing it could have done. I mean, it made the track better, really. And then those last few laps, it started tacking up again, and man, it was kind of just paddle around after that, you know. I lost the flow a little bit, Thad and I both, just because there's trying to get around lappers, and then the stuff got so thick it just pulled you left and right, and it was hard to keep that momentum driving forward. But we had a good time, and just got to give it up to everybody sticking around out here. It's a muddy mess, and tough on everybody and everybody's equipment, but the FMF KTM team did a great job. My mechanic Cody and everybody underneath the tent, just thank you.
There you go, Caleb Russell. And look at it now. The sun shines on Caleb Russell after a tough mutter here in New York.
A tough mutter, no doubt about it. Interestingly, conditions from not so favorable during the rain to, and then during the rain, things getting better. It seemed like what Caleb was saying. But wow, like he said, you could tell that the track was getting more and more challenging as this race wore on. And again, a beautiful shot here from our Yamaha live drone from the Seneca Highlands as we look out at an amazing view here. And of course, I think Mikey Waynes might be back down in the pits with our second place ride, Thad Duvall, as we'll be checking in with him and finding out how things went from his perspective.
Well, Thad, the battle was on like normal between you and Caleb, man. Coming up a little short in this one, but I mean, with these kind of races, is it just really all about survival?
Yeah, you know, some days I'm not very happy with second, but I gave it my best today. I felt like I really laid it out on the line, and yeah, it just came up short. Sometimes you do, and yeah, it was fun. It was we passed each other I don't know how many times, but yeah, it was fun riding, and it was just like he was saying, when the rain kind of come down, it was just hard to stay in a groove, and main thing was to keep your goggles on today, and I had to stop a couple times for goggles, and then yeah, just I gave it my best, just come up a little short, and yeah, I really enjoyed riding my bike today. I had a smile on my face, I think, the whole day, and I feel good. I feel like, I don't know, feel like I got a left in the tank, but yeah, I'm glad that one was over. The last lap was brutal, and you know, really the worst part was just your hands. You couldn't hardly hold on. They got real wet and muddy, and just tough holding on. And you know, when you get a handful of throttle going up a hill, you better be holding on. So yeah, hats off to the whole team. Man, there was guys everywhere. I really appreciate that, and all the fans today. I had seems like I had a lot of people cheering me on, so it was cool. And yeah, just one of those days.
Now on to your home state. The next one is your home state.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm really looking forward to the snow trip. Been looking forward to it all year, and yeah, going to go home and do some testing over by Snowshoe, and come 100% ready for sure.
There you go, Thad Duvall taking second here today in the overall.
All righty, as we check in with some of the results, as we know, Ben Kelly taking the third place position overall, Stu Baylor taking third place in the XC1 Pro Class, fourth place overall, and Trevor Bollinger will check in the number 5 position. Looks like Ricky Russell will check in with 7 laps down now in 6th place, as it looks like Craig DeLong, Andrew DeLong, Corey Buttrick, and Josh Toth should probably likely round out the top 10, but they are slow checking in with that 7th lap as we work through that top 10. Let's check back in with Mikey Waynes down now with our third place finisher.
Yeah, down here with Stu Baylor. I said, how you doing, man? He said, I cannot see. So, man, you can't see. You pull off third in the XC1.
Yeah, that was shit. There's no other way to say it. That was a rough day, man. Starting out with, I think, I gave everybody 10 seconds to the first turn because I was feeling good today. I wanted to pass everybody, you know, and then spent 3 minutes in the pits. That didn't help. Yeah, it was rough. This place has never treated me well, so to come away with the podium, I'm happy with it. Just, you know, passing through the XC1 class and then having to pass through I think even some A riders there on the second lap after that prolonged pit. So, you know, it was really tough. Just crushed the throttle tube, and you know, nothing I could do about it. Just bummer, but it is what it is. Good day, solid points, and looking forward to the next one.
On to the next one. Stu Baylor taking third today in that XC1 class.
Wow, great ride for him and a great push. He was outside the top 20, or right just inside the top 20, maybe 20th place at the end of that first lap, and all the way up to third in class whenever we take a look at the big picture, finishing 4th overall, and an amazing feat for him. No doubt about that. As folks, we do want to remind you our next round of racing will be coming up about 3 weeks from now. We'll be at Snowshoe Mountain Resort in Snowshoe, West Virginia. That'll be round 8 of this championship. Also reminding you that our next round of GNCC, round 9, will be the makeup round from the Big Buck GNCC. That'll be taking place July 6th and 7th at Dunkirk, Pennsylvania, called the High Voltage GNCC. So mark that on your calendars. Check GNCCRacing.com and check this out from Mikey Waynes down with our 3rd place overall. Of course, Ben Kelly.
Well, Ben Kelly, a 1st place in the class and a 3rd place in the overall today.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I got off to a good start in XC2 and worked my way up to the front there on the first lap, and just, yeah, I feel like I just figured out how to ride the track good right away, and I was just really smooth and flowing through the deep ruts and just carrying good speed everywhere. So yeah, I was just working my way through the XC1 guys, and this time I just tried my best to get through them quick and not get stuck behind them, and not make any dumb mistakes where I'd pass them and then crash and have to work my way up again. So I got through clean and just kept riding, and yeah, was able to get 3rd overall and another win in XC2, and yeah, I'm pumped to be back on the overall podium.
So this overall podium thing, I think that's what 2 races in a row for you, and we're heading into Snowshoe, and the way that we start those races, what's the mindset? It's got to be at the top of your mind, right, going for an overall at Snowshoe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, coming into this round, I was 5th overall, so that means if I had a good race today, which I did, I'll be 5th overall going into that race, and I could start in the front row, and that was my main goal. So yeah, starting on the front row with Caleb and Thad and Stu and all those guys it means a lot, and I'm just going to race for the overall there, not worry about anything else. So I'm excited for that.
There you go, guys. Taking a 3rd here overall, and he said it right there. We got it on camera, shooting for that #1 spot when it comes to Snowshoe.
Wow, that could be a big advantage for him, and wow, what a day. Congratulations to all of our riders, and of course, Caleb Russell taking the win there, Thad Duvall in 2nd, Ben Kelly in 3rd, and wow, what a day. We saw a whole lot of great action, a lot of great passes, and a few times we scratched our head, but in the end, this is the way things are looking unofficially at our Rocky Mountain ATVMC.com top 10 overall board. Caleb Russell, Thad Duvall, Ben Kelly, 1, 2, and 3. Stu Baylor taking 4th overall, Trevor Bollinger in 5th overall, Ricky Russell 6th, Craig DeLong in 7th, 2nd in the XC2 class, Corey Buttrick in 8th overall, Mike Wachowski 3rd in the XC2 class, and Josh Toth rounding out the top 10 overall, and that'll do it pretty much for this Dunlop Tomahawk GNCC. On behalf of all of us here at Racer TV and my co-hosts today, Johnny Gallagher and Mikey Waynes, I'm Rodney Tomlin saying good day, everybody.